Hi there, and welcome to Conquering Commas, Lesson 7, Appositives. We're going to learn today all about what to do when you have a noun in a sentence that describes another noun. First of all, though, we'll have a little preview. In this lesson, we're going to review rules 1 to 6, see if you really remember them. We'll define what the word appositive means, look at how to use commas with appositives, and then have a review. First off, let's see if you actually remember these rules. Rule number 1, series. Rule 2, dates and addresses. Rule 3, introductory words. Rule 4, letters. Rule 5, 2 adjectives. And Rule 6, direct address. An appositive is a noun or noun phrase that describes another noun. Let's think about a noun. Here's one of my favorite nouns, William Shakespeare. We could describe him using many nouns. He could be described as a playwright, as a genius, as a theater owner, as a torturer of students, if you're feeling a little hostile toward Mr. Shakespeare, or as he liked to refer to himself, a poet. Here I've written 3 sentences, my own little tribute to Mr. William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, comma, a genius playwright, comma, has changed my life. Look at how a genius playwright is a noun. It's a noun phrase. Genius is an adjective that describes playwright, which is the noun, and they both describe William Shakespeare. You'll notice that there are commas on either side of the phrase a genius playwright, which is my appositive. Look at the next sentence. His plays, comma, reflections of our shared humanity, comma, challenge me to think beyond the surface. Again, you can see how reflections of our shared humanity is a noun phrase. It describes the plays and thus is an appositive and needs commas around it. The last one, Will, comma, resident of Stratford-on-Avon, comma, life without you would be darker. Resident of Stratford-on-Avon describes Will and is thus an appositive. Life without him would be darker. Of course, Shakespeare himself used appositives on occasion. Here's an example. Oh, swear not by the moon, comma, the inconstant moon, comma, that ever changes in her circled orb. Juliet says these lines in the balcony scene of Romeo and Juliet. And you'll notice that the inconstant moon is a noun. It's describing moon. She uses the same noun again, but puts an adjective in front of it for emphasis. You don't really need the inconstant moon in that sentence. It still would make sense. But oh my goodness, it adds so much to the meaning of the entire scene when she calls Romeo out on his variations of affection. She tells him not to be like the moon because it ever changes in its circled orb. I always wondered about this Ford Madox Brown painting because I've always wondered, what is he doing with his left hand? It's very fascinating to me. I guess he's balancing on the balcony. Let's look at a slightly more contemporary example. The Aqua Tower, comma, a beautiful building in downtown Chicago, comma, was designed by Jeannie Gang, comma, a prominent architect. Oh, hey, I put 2 appositives in this sentence. A beautiful building in downtown Chicago is a noun phrase that describes the Aqua Tower. A prominent architect is a noun phrase that describes Jeannie Gang. You could see that if I got rid of those 2 parts of the sentence would still make sense. The Aqua Tower was designed by Jeannie Gang. The previous sentence was an example of a phenomenon that you'll see all the time. The appositive can appear anywhere in the sentence. Let's look at the next sentence. The basketball, Catherine's treasured possession, was her good luck charm, the item she was certain helped her team win the championship. The basketball has a comma after it because Catherine's treasured possession is an appositive. It's a noun phrase describing basketball. You can also see that the entire last part of that sentence, the item she was certain helped her team win the championship, is also an appositive because the item describes her good luck charm, which of course, as we know, is the basketball. Of course, there is a tricky part. If the appositive is not essential to the meaning of the sentence, use commas. If it is essential, don't put the commas in. Remember how I said earlier that if you can take the part between the commas out, almost like they're little handles on either side, and the sentence still means the exact same thing, then you have to have those commas in. But if the appositive is essential, don't use commas because you are basically saying, whoa, we've got to leave that part in. Now, this might be hard to imagine, so let's look at some examples. My brother Joe lives in Denver. There are no commas in that sentence. There are no commas in that sentence because my brother Joe is very specific to himself. If it just said, my brother lives in Denver, you wouldn't know which brother. You would have no idea. What if I have 10 brothers? You don't know that. So you don't put the commas in because Joe is very specific. It's a name and it gives us information that is essential. If you put the commas in, my brother, comma, Joe, comma, lives in Denver, it looks like you're talking to somebody named Joe. And that's just not the case. To show you an example of a non-essential appositive, look at that last sentence. My brother, comma, a car dealer, comma, lives in Denver. We don't need that section, a car dealer. You could just say, my brother lives in Denver. And the sentence still means the same thing. The question you have to ask yourself is, does the sentence mean the same thing without that appositive? Okay, let me give you another example because this is pretty tricky. Dickens' character Ebenezer Scrooge worries about money more than he worries about people. There are no commas in this sentence. If you are at all familiar with the writings of Charles Dickens, you know that he has hundreds of characters. And there are a lot of characters who worry about money. And we need Ebenezer Scrooge. If you took Ebenezer Scrooge out of the sentence, it would read, Dickens' character worries about money more than he worries about people. But the sentence doesn't mean the same thing because the original sentence was about a really specific person, Ebenezer Scrooge, protagonist of A Christmas Carol. So how do you test? Well, the test for non-essential appositive works exactly like the test for introductory words and direct address. If you can eliminate the appositive and the sentence still makes the same sense, and that's the critical part there, it's got to make the same sense, you need the commas because the appositive is non-essential. Okay, here's one more example. The singer Kesha sought to free herself from her recording contract. There are no commas in this sentence. You don't put a comma after singer or after Kesha because Kesha is essential to this sentence. You are not speaking about all singers. You are speaking about one singer in particular, Kesha. Now, if you look at the second example, you'll see how a non-essential appositive can be taken right out of the sentence. Kesha, comma, an amazing singer, comma, has sought to free herself from her recording contract. We don't need that appositive. We don't need that noun describing Kesha. It could just say Kesha has sought to free herself from her recording contract, and that sentence means the same thing. Okay, so quick review. An appositive is a noun or noun phrase that describes another noun. A good way to test for a noun is to see if you can put the or a in front of it, because that will always tell you if a word is a noun. Use commas to separate the appositive from the rest of the sentence. Use the commas wherever the appositive occurs in the sentence, whether the beginning, the middle, or the end. And if the appositive is essential to the meaning of the sentence, don't use commas. I hope you're a little closer to conquering commas.